Go. All right. I'm going to go into Facebook and I'm going to see if we're
Transmitting.
doing what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Then we'll formally roll the show out. This is going to be an exciting show. It's going to be one that applies to everybody, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see here. Okay. I don't see anybody in the house yet, but that doesn't mean anything. Here we go. 7 in the house.
There
Hello,
you go.
Diane Richards. Hope I get connected. You are connected. Good to see you, Julie Dara Roberts. Susan Mason. Hello, Sedona or Phoenix. Michael Van Patten. Shanna Corona. Diane McLaughlin. I think I got something in the mail from you today. Sue Baxter Fitz. Thank you for continued level of support. Raquel Toombs, my old friend. Debrielle. Who else did I get? Miss Lucinda Ballantine. Dana Bywater. Donna Davidson. Yeah, and Amanda Summers back. Ivania's back. She's going to be on in a couple of days. Down from Tasmania, Marcy Duros, Fiona Thur, Martin Jones, Timothy Conan, Katarina de Amor, Kendra Lane, yeah, Sisterhood. Okay, so we got an exciting show today. It's a little change of pace, you know, these first 12 and a half days, 13 days in the new year have been full of bliss and something that rhymes with it. It starts with a P. And no. But it's been a lot. I think there's been some extremes. I think we're going through them smoother and smoother. But it still doesn't take away from the depth and the intensity of the things that we're going through. Hello, Europe. Thank you for joining us. 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm gonna roll the show out like this. Paul's been on before. He's part of the Sexuality team, working on the website with a couple other people. Our guest today is Paul Hanrieder. If you don't know him, we're going to be talking today about important spiritual self-care practices using your sacred sexual energy, a survival kit for the energies we are feeling. The coming months are going to be filled with purges and energetic shifts that can be very uncomfortable and tiring to our bodies. Our sexual energy was given to us as human beings to help us ground, center, and purge energies in our body that no longer serve us. During this show, we will gently discuss these principles and offer some gentle direction on how we can use these energies to propel us through these trying times in pleasure and comfort rather than fear and discomfort. Prepare to be pleasantly surprised to learn how things like breath, intention, and focus can be used in conjunction with sexual energies to make beautiful and powerful shifts in our being, to permit these transitions to flow easily and comfortably. If this subject makes you feel uncomfortable, I suggest you come even more. These discomforts are not yours. They are far from the past and ready to be purged. So that was quite an opening. I'm glad I don't have to live up to that. So without further ado, welcome Paul, my brother Hanrieder, to Soul Speaks 5D for your second appearance. And I believe this one will be much more in depth since you kind of hit us with a shocker in the first one. I'm just kidding. So welcome to the show. And where do you want to begin?
Well, kind of like what you talked about. Energies are going. I don't know how else people are feeling, but today it's kind of like highs and lows, and you're feeling stuff in your chest and just exhausted, and you got to lay down, and you don't know what's going on, and kind of, in a lot of cases, a lot of people, what they're feeling isn't even their energy. There's a huge amount of push in the collective, and anybody that's a bit of a light worker or sensitive to energies are being asked more and more and more to help ground these energies out and release them. And most of us don't have really good tools to be able to release those energies from us. So I felt really called to start talking about that, and something that a lot of people have a lack of in their world is the ability to use their sexual energy for their pleasure, and they just see it as an act to do with their lover or someone that's important in their life to do all that kind of stuff. But it's actually a very important, vital process in our system as a human being. The act of using self-pleasure for ourselves, and that might scare some people, and because it's been said as a bad thing for many thousands of years. You could be stoned to death or killed or whatever for self-pleasure or masturbation. And so there's a lot of genetic trauma that are inside ourselves. And as children, we are told by our parents, don't touch that and don't do that and all this kind of stuff. It's actually shown that babies actually touch their genitals inside the womb and they give themselves pleasure because that's a natural part of being a human being. And then they come up with this world and it's all about shame and guilt and you shouldn't touch yourself. And if you can't love a part of your body and you think it's ugly or it's dirty or whatever, can you really love yourself? And this is a whole new topic for a lot of people. And I'm sure I'm touching a lot of really live wires inside of people that, what, you expect me to touch myself and all this? But,
well, I think your explanation goes much deeper than that. It starts, I believe, with breath, but I don't think you're going to have a whole lot of resistance. I think with the energies come more open-mindedness from all of us, whether it's for some relief from the discomfort or just naturally understanding at a higher level that what you're bringing from your heart, the intention of your heart, the heart of your intention is something to worth at least listen to.
mm-hmm. So to also start things, we have to understand the physiological process of orgasm in our bodies. So we have this energy that builds up and it's pleasure. When an orgasm hits, our whole body contracts and we're like feeling the wave of the orgasmic energy. And it's actually energy that's flowing from our genitals up our body. And at the same time, our brain is putting out all these feel-good hormones, oxytocins, and all these things that you get in antidepressant pills, and it's naturally relaxing our entire body. So we're basically going to this really tight thing. Well, guess what? As you're in really tight, you're also putting pressure on the traumas that are energetically trapped in your body. And sometimes it's in your muscles, in your lower back, in your genitals, in all these things. And by the pulsing of an orgasm, you're literally self-massaging and giving an opportunity to express those energies. So
Wow.
if we do things like start breathing, now it doesn't even have to be orgasm. If you can get into laughing fits where your whole body and you're just laughing and and you're just crunched up, or you can be really angry, or you can be screaming at the top of your lungs. What are all side effects of those? Those are things where your body tenses and it releases all these energies, and you're basically compressing the body and allowing through breath, through yelling, through laughing to basically move the energy, and that can be an orgasm as well.
So basically what you're saying is we've got this trapped energy, which I think we all know. We talk about the cellular, it's in our cellular. We can alter our DNA, in our muscles, and all the parts of our biological suit. And basically what we're doing is through these different methods is we're generating an energy by consciously loving ourselves, laughing, allowing ourselves to be angry, sad, whatever the situation is. And that is an energetic imprint that's running through our cellular, atomic, and everything to the outside of our skin to release this compressed density.
Absolutely. And we'll talk more about things like breath and stuff like that. But at the end of a fit like that, you can call it an orgasmic fit, an anger fit, a laughing fit, whatever. You are in a densely relaxed state. Well, if it's really angry, you might be just really frustrated, but your body relaxes and you get to a place, like especially after orgasm, where you're just laying there and it's just like bliss. Well, guess what? You don't have to learn to meditate and quiet your mind and all this kind of stuff. You use your self-pleasure, you get to a point of orgasm, you can be in that orgasm or that meditative state in an instant. Everybody has the ability. So you don't have to go and study with a guru and figure out how to quiet your mind. Go do that and just sit in the pleasure and sit in the hormones and the energy that's flowing through your body and just be in that being state. Because we're all asked to be. Well, after that, you have no thoughts. You don't know what you're going to do next. You're just being, and you're just absorbing that pleasure. So this tool that we're all taught to be ashamed about and all this kind of stuff in our society actually has the ability to heal and provide all the medicines that we need to come into our body to help us get out of depression and all these kind of things. And we're not allowed to use it, or we're ashamed about it. So what I'm asking to teach, or being asked to teach people about, is to go in and use that pleasure for yourself. You don't have to have a partner involved. You don't have to do anything. This is a session where you go and you have a date with yourself. You go set up your bedroom, put some nice candles on, have a nice bath beforehand, and then literally your self pleasure is making love to yourself. So when I say making love to yourself, that's being really gentle with yourself and touching your body and getting into your body by feeling the sensations of your hairs and touching and all that kind of stuff. It's a really good thing because when you're fully in your body, you're grounded. So just by touching yourself and you're feeling that beautiful sensation of the hairs rustling on my arm, it starts to get electric. And then you're more and more in your body and you're less being pulled up here and all scared and all this kind of stuff. And you start to just get into this very relaxed state. And the more and more you're in your body, the more and more sexual energy can start to move through you. And the more you're in your body, the more those traumas express, and you can feel the sensations and things that have been trapped in our cells and our membranes and all this our whole life. And we're just gently kind of coercing it. And we'll talk more breath in a sec here, but you're just basically trying to get a lot of energy moving through your body using breath, movement, sound, and touching, and something very special happens. And
Yeah.
it's not about a partner, it's all about us. And once we start loving ourselves first, we can give so much more to a partner and we can do all these other things, but we're not taught to honor ourselves. We don't even know what feels good in our body a lot of times. We can't
Yeah.
tell what we want. So what I'm encouraging,
So
go ahead.
no, so I was going to say, so I mean, it's it's because the way you describe it's almost like a therapeutic setting. I mean, you could use color, music, sound, um,
All those things.
visuals.
Mhm.
And I'm not talking porn, but I'm talking visuals of maybe color of different things, even geometry, whatever pulls you into alignment and set the environment up for that.
Yeah. Well, and I there's so many men in this world that are addicted to porn, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the healing. But even if you need some stimulation through that, I don't consider it a bad thing. um,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of pornography that's not negative or derogatory towards women. It's just showing sexuality. There's a lot of things like Hager art and other things that present sexuality in a much more spiritual, beautiful, loving way.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to sit there and give yourself pleasure just by closing your eyes and trying to imagine your lover. So I don't look badly upon people using those
yeah,
tools. It gets you to the point of orgasm and you feel really relaxed. Does it really matter how you got there?
yeah,
At this point, it's healing, and we can work on the addictions or other things later.
yeah. But using it with a conscious intent to heal or conscious intent to clear,
Hmm.
even if it's just laying down with even without getting to that, just putting yourself in an environment where you love the music and the color and what the room looks like and feels like, and you just sit there and
Hmm.
you know,
So,
yeah. Because I don't even know, like, in the way I meditate isn't really traditional. If I think about that, it is sometimes just putting in some music or rain. Sometimes I just listen to rain and then I just go. I
hmm
don't really consider that meditating. I consider that more like dimensional traveling, maybe.
hmm well, the rain is kind of like a white noise, and it kind of, your mind can't really center onto anything, so it really just relaxes everything because there's nothing else to listen to. There's beautiful music, like if you go search on like Apple Music or on YouTube, solfeggio tones, which is love and heart based music that's centered around Schumann frequencies and all this kind of stuff. Just to play that in the background will change your whole setting and the whole energy of yourself just in the background. Candlelight has amazing things to do with your mind and stuff like that. That flickering and that change and that soft glow will relax your body, and it starts to affect you, and it allows spirit to come in because the flame is there. So you start doing things like this. You talked about intention, so that's another whole topic I want to talk about. So if you go in and you start this practice and you have something that's affecting you in your life, you can start to set an intention before you lay down and you say, okay, I want to heal this thing, or I want to release this pressure in my chest, or I want to have uh, just a relaxing time or whatever. You can start off before you start and say, okay, I'm dedicating this sexual energy to focus on this area of my heart, or open my heart, or make me feel love for myself. And what you need to understand is, and a lot of people don't know it, this sexual energy has been used for thousands of years. All the guys that are really rich, like Napoleon Hill wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich. And he talked about Henry Ford and Edison and all these people that made multi-billion dollars. They still exist. Those men used they had torrid sexual lives and affairs and multiple lovers, and they basically used their passion of their sexuality and built it into the passion for their business. And that creation energy that was coursing through them, they basically blew into everything that they did. And then their whole world started to improve. And I see it in my life. It's just like you keep flushing out the stuff that feels heavy and doesn't serve you anymore. And then more and more beautiful, amazing things start happening in your life. So using that energy and getting to that place of happiness, and the more time you can spend in happiness, then beautiful changes start happening in your life. The people you meet are better. The lovers you meet, or the relationships you have, are better. Money starts to flow in your life because literally you're flushing energy. What happens in most people as they build up traumas in their selves, they trap in each of their chakras different things. Like a lot of people are really blocked in their first to third chakras, which is all of our connection to life and sexuality and money and reality. And when they're plugged off, what do you do about that? You go and get Reiki and all these other kind of things. Well, the more sexual energy you start expressing through your body, and I'll get to breath here very shortly, but the more you can start bringing your sexual energy up your body and up your spine and through those chakras, you will literally create holes in those blocks, and then your life will start flowing. And how else can you do that all by yourself in this world without going to a Reiki healer or whatever? You all have that power right there.
Yeah. So does it start with breath?
Okay, so there's something called a fire breath, or it's basically sexual energy is combined with our kundalini energy. Kundalini, for people that don't know what it is, it's two snakes that are in our pelvis. Basically, they sit down at the very base of our spine in our root chakra, and they get activated by our sexual energy. And when they start getting activated, they start to move. And these snakes move through our breath. So basically, an energy orgasm or a fire breath orgasm, well, energy is the result of it, but a fire breath orgasm, basically, you just learn that as you're about to breathe in, you squeeze your PC muscle, which is the muscle down that controls your buttocks and all that kind of stuff. You basically squeeze that, and then you start pulling your energy up by using your breath. And you saw I kind of pursed my lips. So you squeeze, and then you feel that kundalini energy come up. The sexual energy that's in your genitals, you start pulling that up as you're giving yourself pleasure. And over time, as you keep sipping it up, you release whenever you breathe out. So you breathe in, put that pinch, and then you breathe out, and that kundalini energy has risen up. It's up to here. And each time you keep bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up, until eventually that energy will be up in your head, and you'll feel your whole spine is energized, and all this sexual energy is now coming through those blocked chakras. You may find, oh, it's really blocked here, and I can't really get that energy past here. Well, you're going to know that there's a block in probably your third chakra, and that's something you got to work on, and keep blasting that energy at it through each time you do it. And eventually one day, through intention, that will start to open up, and then it'll be like, oh, now I can get into my heart. What's going on here? This is amazing. And the more you get it up, the more the orgasm that we have is less in our genitals and more physical, and it becomes more of an energy where it kind of, the orgasm energy kind of blasts up your body. If you think of the chakras as having a central channel, we talk about the central channel, it's down our spine. That central channel is just clogged up with debris from our whole life, and this isn't working, and that's not working, and I'm unhappy about this, and I'm unhappy about that. Think of you now put a high pressure jet of energy through that central channel. It's like a pipe cleaner. It'll just start flossing you out, and blocks will start disappearing. And each time you do it, more and more energy is going to get through you. And you're like, holy cow, what's going on in my world? Things are getting better, and I'm feeling more happy, and that kind of stuff. this gift is in everybody. You don't have to go to a Reiki healer or go to somebody to guide you through all this kind of stuff. What we're talking about here is available to every single person right here and now.
Well, there's one person that discovered it on the 11th. I hope she doesn't mind. She put the comment up. Jennifer Sampson says, I enjoyed my first self-pleasure by default on the 11th and was astounded how beautiful, intense my orgasm was. I put intentions out to the universe. Then I received my Kundalini light activation. My arms started shaking following orgasm like a seizure. I watched and felt in awe as pure white light coursed through my arms and balls of light in my palms. I've been switched on since. So exciting, such a celebratory time to be alive.
So that's off the charts, amazing. Now, that's not typical first results, just so that not everybody gets an expectation that's what's going to happen. But
well, it is 2019, so anything could happen, right?
Well, we hope that that'll happen, but as you clear out those blocks, that's what's coming. And the more you clear out blocks, energy just going through you. You don't know what's going on. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
Here's a good question, Susan Mason. Do you think that the emotionless regular sex had with someone else is beneficial as long as I have an orgasm, or does emotion enter into the benefits, or I would add or take away?
It depends with the intention of what the sex is. If you're just grabbing somebody to have sex to get yourself pleasured is one thing, but if you have another one where it's like you're breathing with that person, you're starting to move the energy together and there's a heart connection, way more energy will start to flow. But any orgasm is going to work.
Yeah.
But it's not like I'm encouraging people to just go find somebody on the corner and have sexuality so that they can do this. This is a much more personal experience. Most people need to learn to love themselves first, because everybody's looking for somebody else to please them and pleasure them and all this kind of stuff. And you can never rely on them until you really have to make the shift from looking outside yourself to looking inside yourself. And a self-pleasuring practice will help you very much look inside yourself.
Yeah.
That's my encouragement, is self-love and touching themselves and figuring out how their body likes to be pleasured. And then when they have a lover come in, they can say, touch me here, do that. This feels amazing. And that sexuality will be like 1,000% higher quality.
Yeah. And as everything is a template, energetic template, this is no pun intended, but a hands-on way of creating like she described, a pure light, pure white light, energetic force through that chakra channel and everything connected to it, including your energy field around your physical body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, there's ways to clear like shadow work. There's ways to clear like this. I mean, it can actually align more than one based on what you're saying. If you set the intentions to clear.
You talked about things like shadow work and stuff like that. That is a lot of times diving into your darkness inside, and it can be very scary, and you're looking right at the edge of all this dark stuff. Well, you can do a lot of that exact same work through pleasure, and it can be really fun, and you can feel like blown wide open and accomplish similar results. And then in the following days, some of that stuff will start to unwind.
Yeah.
I really feel pleasure is the ultimate healing modality. If you can get people using pleasure, they're going to be able to blast through a lot of that really dark, heavy stuff much quicker. They'll still feel some emotions. Tears will come up. Like we didn't talk about that either, but as a process, when you start getting close to your orgasm, you may find all of a sudden you're having anger against an ex-boyfriend or an ex-wife or terror or all these other things, or start giggling. I really encourage you, as those energies come up, to just start expressing them. Say like, F you, and I hate this, and pounding the pillow and all this kind of stuff. And then using the breath. Let's get to the breath because we keep talking about it, but energy orgasm is part of it, but the other part is just like and really breathing down into your genitals, and not just this. Most people do. You're only breathing in the top 30 of your lungs, and energy moves most quickly through breath. If you can get right into your deepest, wherever it's tight in your hips, in your genitals, and start breathing that out as it's touched down there and through the orgasm, that's where the traumas will start coming out. The energies can only move through breath, and you need to be well hydrated and other things. Once you're doing all that, it makes it really, really simple for all these really heavy things to come out of us with a very simple set of instructions. And it's not hard. I'm willing to publish. Here's a little self-pleasuring exercise. Here's how to do it. It's not about how you touch yourself. It's just about making yourself feel pleasure in whatever way your mind allows it to happen. So I'm not teaching people the process of it. I'm saying, okay, when you start feeling pleasure, start using the fire breath and pulling your energy up. And when you start to feel a pain or a pleasure or whatever going on, express it, feel it, go into the bottom of it, but do it in a place where you're feeling pleasure and happy, rather than like, oh, this is hurting the hell out of me and I really got to go through this. And so many people are just tearing through their armor that's built in their body, and it's a really painful process. But the divine and spirit has given us pleasure to be able to do exactly the same thing, and people just need to know that it's possible.
Well, even if it's, for a lot of people, even if it's just the learning to love all of your body, period.
Absolutely.
So many of us raised in a conditioning where, if we didn't look this way or that way, we weren't attracted. That was a lot of heavy conditioning that we all went through. So
Absolutely.
even if it's doesn't even get to the point of, of a full blown orgasm, I mean, just being able to accept and love all parts of your body, and we've all been there.
Yep.
That's I think a powerful energetic imprint that I'm sure carries forward, just like you're saying, this process carries forward a lot of cleansing energetically that you don't even have to be consciously aware of, because it's the same thing, just exhibited in a physicality in a certain way. It's still energy behind it, the same energy of clearing and
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Mm-hmm. Well, another practice I encourage is to take a mirror with you to bed and have a look at what you look like from outside. A lot of people look at ourselves in the mirror in the bathroom every morning, but we really don't look at what that bottom part of our body is, our genitals. They're a beautiful part of us, and they change as arousal changes and all this kind of stuff. It's getting back in touch with that, and it's like, okay, this is like beautiful and this is amazing and there's nothing ugly about it. But you can only make that judgment yourself, right? If society
Yeah,
tells us they're dirty and bad, well, how many of you looked at and you really just need to go start looking at yourself a little bit and doing that. And that scares the hell out of people, and it's like, well, why would I ever do that? No, you're getting in touch with your body and loving it. And if you can see that part of yourself and see it as beautiful, guess what? That's the root of you, and that's beautiful. We
very cool.
keep doing
Yeah,
stuff. Uh,
very cool.
Another one I wanted to touch on is how trauma works in this world. Trauma is basically, let's say you're a child and somebody sexually abused you, and in that moment while you're getting sexually abused, there was a ton of fear and anger and frustration and all this kind of stuff, and you felt powerless. So basically you bottled it all up because you couldn't scream or yell because you thought you were going to get hurt or whatever. And basically it creates this like energetic knot inside of our body. And if you were free and clear, you would have just screamed and yelled and told your mom and dad or whatever, and made this thing not happen. Well, over time, this starts to define us. This abuse or this bad thing that happened in our past, we start trying to protect ourselves against it ever happening again. Okay, well, I'm not going to let my uncle come into my bedroom anymore, or I'm not going to let this thing happen. And these rules start growing. And you've heard the term armoring before. Well, we as human
Yeah,
beings become heavily armored. So we create, like, imagine that thing is a splinter that's gone into our chest. And instead of going in and removing the splinter and dealing with the energies, we just start putting these poultices and band-aids, and then when we're in our 40s, all of a sudden this thing is like a freaking Mack truck full of rules and things that are going to make sure that never gets twinged again.
yeah,
Where what I'm trying to do is, so this armor builds up in our heart and our upper part of our body, and when we talk it out, we got to deal with all these rules. When we start dealing with our sexual energy, we're dealing with the foundation and the root of our body. So most of these traumas end up inside of our genitals. Men hold it in their ass, women hold it in their yonis, and you can literally feel in a woman's yoni energetic knots, and the cervix becomes all knotted up, and it's not in the healthy state that it should be. And it's basically all that anger, all that frustration, all that sadness is all concentrated in a bunch of muscles to make sure it never gets twinged again and it doesn't hurt. Eventually it starts to define the person. It's like, I'm a sexual abuse survivor, and I'm a victim, and I got to be careful around men or women or whatever. And it creates this story in us. So we're defined by this one thing that happened to us way, way back. When you start using sexual pleasure and you start using breath and breathing and stuff like that, we start shaking up those tissues through the orgasm and through the breath and through the intention and moving the energy. And literally we start to break up those energies. And the more we can laugh, cry, whatever, scream, when we're feeling that energy be activated, we start to heal the root of that event that happened. And once that energy is completely expressed, it starts to change us. All of a sudden, it's like we're not defined by that splinter that it was in our chest. So now all of a sudden, all our rules and all our things that were weighing us down and making our life hard and difficult and trapping us, all of a sudden start to fade away. And then you need a really beautiful, supportive community, and people can start telling you, okay, well, that's not true. Not all men are bad, or not all women are bad, or you're not a bad person because this happened. Well, you were powerless. You couldn't do anything as a young child when this happened. So what I'm encouraging people is to use their sexual energy, and they're blasting the traumas out the bottom. They don't have to go through all the armor on the top, and they're using their sexual energy to express them and move forward. And what happens is the armor starts to break down slowly but surely over the months and years that follow that, because there's no root left. So when you do shadow work and you do other work, you go back to the root of where all these things instigated themselves. Well, the root is that piece of energy ball that's stuck in your pelvis a lot of times. And by encouraging people to move all this kind of stuff, they can make massive changes in who they are and their reality very, very quickly. It just all depends how deep you want to go. And I'm consciously of the belief that we're never given anything stronger than we can handle.
Yeah.
Feel like it in the moment, but as these traumas are expressed and these realities start to break down, then very beautiful changes start to happen in your life. And I think a true 5D person is going to be working through these regularly, and they're going to get to this point where those don't define them anymore, and they can be beautiful, loving, happy beings without this past redefining them all.
Yeah, and then somebody brought up bathtubs and showers, and it seems like the water has, well, it doesn't seem like it. We know that water has some kind of universal healing quality. And I guess that can be incorporated into the whole self-care, self-love, the actual physical act.
Absolutely. Going and having an Epsom salt bath. Epsom salt increases the electrical conductivity of the water. And basically either before or after you do the self-pleasuring, you go in and it'll release all that stuff that comes out of your body. The other thing that once you finish your orgasm, I want to encourage people to have a practice of just like hugging themselves and filling themselves with love afterwards. Because basically, as we release all these things out of the body, we want to fill in the space of what just happened and what was released with something loving. And if you can just keep filling yourself with love, or asking the universe to fill you with love and fill in all those holes that we just released this negative stuff out of us, and fill it with love, then beautiful, amazing things start to happen.
So you're saying you can go into this, you can be in a depressed state of mind. So let's say we're having a bunch of energy come in, and you just feel like, like we've all felt from time to time, which is just get me out of here. Absolutely. I want to go. I don't want to be here anymore. You can go into something like this and develop your own way for yourself, whether it be laughing, self-pleasure, even feeling deep, intense emotion.
My personal practice is as soon as I start to feel heavy and I'm having trouble coping with it, or it's feeling so strong, I go into that state of allowing myself to have self pleasure, and the literal act of having an orgasm, and sometimes it's quick and dirty or whatever, just to process it, or sometimes it's deep and loving and where you're having the candles and all that kind of stuff. But it's virtually guaranteed that you're going to release a bunch of the energy that you're feeling that's heavy, and you're going to feel somewhat better afterwards, even if it's just a small orgasm. But the more breath and the more energy you can move and the intention you can set, it will reset you.
Yeah.
And depression needs things like dopamine and oxytocin and all this. These are the drugs that you'll get over the counter and they'll put into your body in these massive states where your brain can synthesize them in a millisecond during pleasure.
Well, and the other thing too that we all face with and struggle with has been the frequency of codependency, especially in marriages and relationships. And so we get into that situation in a romantic relationship, and you have projected that responsibility, so to speak, on someone else. So this is another energetic imprint of being self-reliant and you know and being in control of your own power and your field.
And once you're in control of your pleasure, you don't have to ask it from a partner, and the level of pleasure will go up substantially because you're not relying on them to get you there. You're doing it yourself, and you're talking to them and telling you what you want, and you're knowing what you want because now you've experienced it. You've tried it on yourself. There, you don't have to be codependent at all. We're given all the tools and the gifts we need, unless you're paralyzed or paraplegic or something. You can touch ourselves. Now, there's other levels where you can actually, like quadriplegics and stuff like this, they can literally have orgasms and energetically and other stuff in their body, but
As we all can.
is
Yeah.
much more involved, right? At that
Yeah.
point, you're pushing energy and other stuff. I'm talking just physical, raw, basic, so that anybody can do it. But as you advance, you're going to start having energy orgasms, and you're going to sit there and you're going to be writhing in pleasure for 5 or 10 or an hour because that energy is just coursing through your body and it's flushing. That's the power that you can get to with sexuality. But that takes some training, that takes some practice. You have to know your body and those kind of things. But once you get there, you'll never go back to normal genital hiccup style sex, which is 3 seconds of pleasure done, right? No.
Now, for people that have been through a lot of sexual trauma, I guess it potentially could bring up a lot of very traumatic memories and stuff like that. I guess each individual journey is different, but I would imagine that's could be pretty challenging to push your way through it.
Well, it's most challenging with a partner because you got to get somebody you can trust, and maybe that partner is from the sex of the person that gave the original trauma. So there's a lot of complexity there. When at least you're dealing with yourself, you can approach your edge. Like some people have edges, like you're talking about. It's trauma, and it's like, okay, as soon as I touch myself, I remember this incident. Even the act of just going up to that edge and looking at that energy privately by yourself, not having to please anyone or anything else, it's just all about you. You can start getting closer to it, and you can then feel the fear and the anger and the frustration, start to express it. And as you express it and you use the breath work that I was just talking about, you don't have to even be pleasuring at that time, but expressing it, crying into your pillow for half an hour or whatever. Most people are so afraid they'll never go there. But how are they going to get their sexuality back? Sometimes they may have to work with a healer or somebody that can help them get to that edge. And I'm not saying everybody's going to be able to just jump up and do this, but sometimes you'll work with someone that you can trust and they'll help get you to that edge so that you can express it. But if you don't try this, you're not going to know that thing's there. And
yeah.
the more that you can see that that's there and start to understand it, then you can express it to someone and they can help you work it through. And that's not a simple task. There's a ton of trauma and a lot of fear. And I feel for these people and that kind of stuff. But a lot of these traumas have been introduced into our lives to help strengthen us. And most people won't see that at the time, but we're working through some of the darkest stuff in the world so we can learn boundaries in our life, and we can learn that we have no control. Stuff happens to us, and you're not bad. You didn't do something wrong. You didn't. A lot of times, these are the things that people don't understand. They just blame themselves forever because this bad thing happened to them, and they're trying to change it, but they can't. You can't change what's in the past. Let's make you a new person in this moment so that those stories don't keep replaying, and beautiful things start to happen. It just erodes that past thing, and then you can start moving forward, and then you have your confidence and your power back and your self-esteem, and that's the gift everyone deserves to have, and it's moving forward very rapidly in this new 5D time.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about intention, conscious intention. Can you go over that again? Just the ways that to go into it with the intention of clearing something, or whatever you were specifically referring to.
Okay, so before you sit down or while you're in the bath preparing to do your self-pleasure, you can look at the things that aren't happening in your life. Like, oh, maybe I want a new lover in my life, or I want more sexuality in my life, or I need money, or I need a new house, or I need something, or this is hurting so badly in my heart. I want to resolve this. You can set a very gentle, loving intention for yourself and say, okay, I'd really like to soften this pain, or have some guidance from the universe to help me understand why this is happening. And you can go into your intention is really important in everything in life, and especially in sexuality, because the amount of energy you're dealing with. So if you go in with the intention, I'm going to heal this thing in my heart, and I'm going to start loving myself, I'm going to heal my victimhood of my sexual abuse, or those kind of things, the universe is just begging for you to start doing that. So your willingness to start making a change is the intention. And universe will move heaven and earth sideways to get you to whatever you want the minute you're showing willingness. So an intention is, my willingness is to use my sexual energy to have more money show up in my life, have a lover show up in my life, or a life mate. And it'll start coming because you're now going to the edge. You're feeling that fear of that potential sexual abuse because your genitals don't feel right, or whatever. The universe is going to help you every step of the way. But a lot of people have shut down. They're too terrified, and they're scared to do those things. But it's not a shameful thing. By me speaking publicly to everybody and saying, I do this 3 times a day sometimes, I have absolutely no shame in doing it. It helps reset me and allows me to get onto a path, and amazing, beautiful things are starting to happen in my life. I got a new place coming in a month, and working with the Soulspeaks team, and new clients are coming in, and bigger projects. That all came from doing exactly what I'm telling everyone to do now. And I just want everybody to have that knowledge. And there's nothing shameful about sexuality. It's our God-given right, and we deserve to have bliss and pleasure and fun. Sexuality is our playground as adults. We don't get to go and giggle and have fun out on the merry-go-round a lot of times like the kids, but when you have yourself or a partner in bed, that's when you giggle and have fun and be vulnerable and try new things. And most people aren't in a place where they can feel comfortable doing that. And by being in touch with their body, they can start to feel comfortable. It's like, that feels really good. I want more of that in my life.
Well, I would say too, it's probably a very, very good way to discover your vulnerabilities that you may not even known about if you're spending that time alone, and with that type of focus, which is a big factor for all of us. You know,
consider really your meditation time. Like a lot of people, it's like, oh, I got to go sit in the corner on the couch or whatever. No, my meditation time is self-pleasuring. And stuff comes up. It's like a new idea, and what's that? And where does that weirdness happening? And that's where I'm just being, and I'm being in my body, and the universe and divine can start to talk to me, and stuff starts happening because you're making time for you. How many people run the hamster wheel all day long and they have no time for any of this? This is a good thing to get time for yourself.
Yeah. Very cool. And so, where do people, many people are just being introduced to you in this last 45 minutes, but where do people find you? Where do they find your stuff?
Well, the main group that I have is something called Awakening Through Sexuality. It's a private group on Facebook. So anybody that goes on Facebook and searches Awakening Through Sexuality, uh, ask to be added to it, and we start talking about topics like this. I have a website called sexualityrising.org, and people can go look there and they can get my contact information. It's just the word sexuality rising, rising.org. And they, if this stuff isn't resonating, or they're scared about something or whatever, I can talk to them. And this stuff, I've had a whole lifetime of healing this stuff in my world, and I understand how it works, and very quickly I can understand why people are blocked, and we can work through that stuff. And it's not a lot of the stuff I can do from remote. It's just the discussion, and I'll coach them on how to do their self-pleasuring, and give them ideas. And then after doing that, they come back in a week or so, and it's like, holy shit, this is happening, and I felt this, and I can't figure out what this block is, and we'll walk through it. Sometimes they just need a gentle hand to guide them through it. I hope once we get our channels and stuff going, to have like a weekly thing where people can do question and answers and say, okay, well, this is what's happening in my life, and I'll share based on what I know to help work them through that stuff. Yeah.
There's two people that ask, can they join the group? So I think you should reiterate the group name and the process for getting into the group.
Very simple. You just go Awakening Through Sexuality in the top search bar of this normal Facebook page, and you'll find the group. You click on it. I'm not even sure we have any questions in there right now. They just say join, and I'll see it, and I'll let them in as soon as the show's over. And
there you go.
Bring up your topic, bring up your questions. We talk about a lot of different stuff, but over time, it's fairly new. I've only started in the last kind of like month and a half, so there's not piles and piles of content. But bring up the questions. What's going on? I don't know what's going on. It did this in my life, or this hurts, or this is happening, and we'll talk about it. And your problem is more than likely 10 other people's problems that are in that group. So start asking them, and you'll be surprised. Another person's issue will show up, and it's crazy how like chain events start happening, where one person expresses it and 20 other people chime in because they're feeling the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So open dialogue. Yeah. That's what we need.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool there.
Yeah.
And are you writing on a regular basis and posting there just the stuff that you come up with? How long you been, just so people know, how long have you been on this path?
Well, I had a marriage for a long time that was a sexless marriage, which will probably resonate with a lot of people. And I had to kind of make a choice for myself. And when you're in a sexless marriage, you learn a lot about sexuality to make sure you're not doing things wrong, and maybe I'm missing something, or whatever. So there's a lot of time, probably 15 years, where I was like learning about sexuality and positions and all these beautiful things. And then as I started to wake up, and then I left my marriage for love of both of us, all of a sudden, like, experiences where I had to go to my edges, and tantric healing and all these kind of things. I started taking courses and stuff that let me work through all that darkness that you were talking about, that most of us have inside of us, shadow work and all this kind of stuff. And as I worked through that, then knowledge like you would not believe just starts flowing in, and channeling, and this stuff around trauma. I'm talking to people about it, and it's like not what psychologists do around trauma, and they're really surprised that some of this stuff, a lot of trauma work is desensitization. And it's like, okay, I'll bring you up to the edge and we'll keep talking about it, but they, a lot of times, they never release the energy. And it's just crazy to me sitting here trying to help people and move them forward, and we're not dealing with the right definition of trauma. We got to release the energy and learn what was happening, and we don't get an opportunity to do that. If we look at all those things as bad and it defines us, then we're stuck forever. But if we look at those things that was teaching us something, and we can find out the reason it was teaching us, and this kind of stuff, then we get our power back, and then incredible, amazing healing starts to happen. But it's a different way. It's the 5D way.
Powerful subject. It's not a new modality. It's just newly being spoken about.
Absolutely.
Awakening through sexuality. Facebook group. Somebody said they would watch this show weekly. And that's one of the initiatives within the initiative that Paul's working on, and some others with the Soulspeaks Network. We're not on linear time. We're just going to do this as it rolls out, and everybody's going to gravitate to what they do best. I'm just going to broadcast. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not doing anything else anymore. But it's a great show. I think this is a really good foundational show for the network, and honor the work that you're doing, and remind everybody, as he put into, as he said quite a few times, taking yourself to the edge, but in a way of just looking over and seeing what exactly is that trauma, or where is this pain coming from, and to me that's requires an openness that we're all moving further and further into as we further expand. So Soulspeaks to me is like a smorgasbord, like a buffet, and everybody comes in and gets what they need. So a lot of positive comments, very well received from the audience. Thank you for coming back on.
Thank you.
And I look forward to the next show and/or collaboration in the near future.
Absolutely.
You got any closing comments?
I envision a world where people can release themselves of all their sexual shames and guilts, and dance in this joy of pleasure, and once they know themselves, then magical stuff starts to happen, and this control and all these mechanisms that have been used to make us scared of this is old. It's got to pass. We're in a world where we're moving to unconditional love, and unconditional love is not putting a box around your partner and saying, this is the only way I'm going to love you unless you do all these things. Unconditional love is loving them no matter who they are and what they do.
Yeah.
And this is what we're talking about. And sexuality is part of unconditional love that has to go. And I'm not talking around, you go mess around with a whole bunch of different people. You are going to find people that ground you and make your world changed through sexuality. But in this world, we're at 18 years old or whatever, when we're deciding to get married, we're choosing our partner for the rest of our life. Like, how scary and insane. And
much better to wait till you're 56.
for three X's later.
All right.
Right?
All right, brother. I'll see you later. Thank you very much. Peace out, everybody. See you in, let's see, 9 months. In 3 hours with Monique Hendry from South Australia. Very powerful, powerful divine feminine. Thanks, Paul.
Have a good day.
Take care.